Well, hello, everybody. Hello, and how are you? And howdy doody. And hopefully you're having a good day wherever you are in this beautiful, beautiful world. Just doing a final touch-ups here on the, there we go. Now we got it. Better? Okay, yeah, it was, it could have been my end, so on TikTok. So, all right, hello. And now we're live on Spreaker as well. So we're good? Thumbs up. Okay, everybody, hello and welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. I just had a 5-hour energy drink, so we're ready to go. So, Mr. Producer, we're here for 5 hours. We are here for 5 hours straight, Mr. Producer. We are going to go full force. Mr. Producer was dancing behind the scenes before we went on air, and I think Mr. Producer is now sitting down. It looks like he's got some oxygen now. That's good. That is very good, Mr. Actually, Mr. Producer, he does he's pretty impressive. He does a lot of biking. And I tell you, I have not been on a bike in such a long time, but I am naturally clumsy. I don't think it's been years since I've been on a bike. I'm naturally blonde, but that's okay. Everybody, welcome to the presentation. Thanks so much for being here. I do appreciate you taking this time. I'll talk a little bit about why we are here versus why we were not at the other place. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But first of all, I want you to do something, please. I want you to go to a wonderful website. And that website is kgradb.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. KGRADB. Now, if you love the paranormal like I do, then you definitely want to do yourself a favor and go check this out. Go check it out. Because I'm telling you, I love it. It's a great site, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. They have some fascinating shows there. And so make sure you check that out. Go head on over there. Head on over there, folks. I promise you, you're going to love it. It's a good time. So you know what, Mr. Producer, I noticed that I'm not running on Instagram either. So I'm going to do it right now. So 1 second. Let me just run this Instagram quickly. And because we can run on Instagram too. And that's what we want to do right now. So bear with me for just 1 second, everybody. So that way I can do this real quick. That way I can run it because we like to run it on. We like as many places as we can. I mean, that's the point doing the show. So bear with me. So I paste this here because you got to paste it on a stream or some kind of cray, and they need a stream key. So let's do this, and there we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, everybody. So first, anyway, kgradb.com. Okay. And also, but put Bishop as your promo code. Okay, make sure you put Bishop as your promo code because you're getting 30% off your subscription. So why not? Now they have some amazing shows there. This show airs there, and I'm very honored to be a part of the KGRADB family. And make sure you also follow them on TikTok. I'll do some TikToks later on. And anyway, kgradb.com. Put Bishop as your promo code. 30% off. That saves you some money, folks. Also, if you want to go to my website, that's fine. It's bishopjameslong.com. bishopjameslong.com. I have to change the end of the show, Mr. Producer, because we're no longer the online classes are free. Because of the trolls. Well, I kind of just made a point to the trolls. The trolls are being hateful and nasty anyway. We'll talk about why I'm doing that. But anyway, bishopjameslong.com. If you want to learn for free, I have 4 classes now: angelology, demonology, paranormal studies, and genealogy, and they're all absolutely 100% free for you. So please consider going to the bishopjameslong.com, click on the class link. And if you click on the class link, there you go. It just takes you right there, and you'll be set to go. Simple. Now, tonight, if you want to go to the church's website at usocc.org, that is the church's website. We do have night prayer tonight. So we'll be running that live on TikTok. And TikTok, we start that at 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we got a lot going on. Let me just briefly why we do this show, why we do the classes for free. Well, I've been in this ministry for now nearly 25 years. And all the trolls, and everybody else, say, Bishop, you should never charge, you should never charge, you should never charge. And I agree, you should not charge for the ministry. And that's all fine and good. That's all fine and good when people say that. And then when you're like, okay, if I never charge, then I've got to find a way to generate money to get to people's homes, because I'm not Santa Claus, and it does cost money to rent a car, get a hotel. That's not cheap. So then how do I raise money to get to people's homes if I'm not charging? Because somebody's got to pay the bill. So what I used to do is I had a book out, Through the Eyes of an Exorcist. And it was just, I did the best I could. I had a very limited time, no excuse. But anyway, so what the trolls did, the same trolls, by the way, who says, oh, you should never charge. You should never charge. So here's what they did. Listen to this. So then they actually they scanned it and they sent it all over the web to people. Now, of course, I wasn't really selling a whole lot of books anyway. I mean, I wasn't really pushing it, but nonetheless, even if I made $50 a month on it, that was at least $50 a month to go to gas. But anyway, that's what they did. They sent it to everybody. So I said, you know what? Forget it. If you want a copy, just let me know and I'll send you a free PDF copy of it. Then I said, okay, I'm going to raise money because I'm going to do classes. So I put this class together: demonology, genealogy, paranormal studies, and demonology. So 4 classes. And now it's $12. It was basically $49 for all 4 classes. It's $12.50 a class. That's it. And it was all online. You learn at your own pace. You get certificates. Everything was done. Well, the trolls decided then to record them and then put them on the internet as well. And I spoke to an attorney about that because of copyright infringement. And I could have sued. I could have. The problem is I, maybe get $100 a month. Maybe 2, maybe 3 people would sign up for that course because I didn't really push it that much. And so he said, by the time you hire me and you go after them, you're going to lose money. So I could do a cease and desist. You tell me what you want to do. And I was like, you know what? The hell with it. The hell with it. So I decided, I'm going to decide. I'm sick of this. So I gave the class away for free. Gave it away for free to make a point to the trolls. So see, that's what has been going on. That's why really, no matter what I do, they will always attack and then do this nonsense. And so every time I try to raise any type of funds, they always eventually find it, record it, and send it out to everybody. So what they don't understand is one day they're going to have to stand in front. Well, no, I had to because I didn't have a choice. They were recording it and sending it everywhere. Everywhere. So everybody was getting it. So there was no reason for me to even sell it anymore because the trolls were giving it away. So here's what they're going to have to do one day. They will stand before God, and then God, and hopefully the trolls are watching, and then God will say, why did you keep my exorcist from going to people's homes because of your hate? And they will have no answer for that. No answer. So that's why. So anyway, if you want to, you can always go. If you want, we have about 400 people who signed up for the course. And that's wonderful. And it's free now. We do ask, if you can make donations, that's wonderful. We would appreciate that. We got about $200 in donations. Anyway. So if you want to donate, you certainly can. You can go to, there's a Cash App. It's $ Bishop James Long. All one word, Bishop James Long. That's really the best way to do it. If you want to. You don't have to. But we have to raise funds somehow to get to people's homes. And so because the trolls, no matter what I do, even people keep telling me you should write another book. Why? Because the moment that I put all the work together and put it all together and put it out there, they're going to copy it and send it out to everybody. So I'm going to have to give it away for free anyway. So see, that's what I deal with behind the scenes that you guys don't see. So anyway, I know it's negative. I know it's, I know it's kind of frustrating, but now you know. So, but anyway, so if you want to, you can go to the Cash App, $ Bishop James Long. You don't have to. You don't have to. But that's the story behind it. Okay. Yep. I appreciate that. Now, on TikTok, because I don't like trolls and I don't want to deal with trolls, well, I tell you what, it looks like people are being nice on TikTok. So I'm going to be okay. I'm going to leave it open for right now for everybody. But once the trolls get bad, I'm putting sub chat only on. Okay, so I apologize, but I have to do it. Yeah, Jeannie, I did talk to an attorney, but I don't generate enough money every month to sue them because it was like $200 to $300 a month, and then by the time I had to hire an attorney, that's $700-800. So if I had like $5,000 a month, sure, but I don't. Anyway, I didn't want to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I just want to explain because people have been asking me why am I giving these things away. Well, now you know. All right. So everybody, tonight is Friday, and we're looking forward to it, and hopefully you are as well. It is Paranormal Friday. So again, I'll leave TikTok on, and we'll see. But if it gets stupid, I'm turning sub chat only on. Just be nice, so everybody can be kind. Tonight, we're going to talk about a really, really cool topic that I want to share with you, and so does Willie Windwalker Gibson. And I'm having Willie on. So Willie is my buddy. I've known him for a long time, and his wife. So for those of you who don't know, the topic tonight is about, we're going to share some of our stories. Some stories are going to be scary, and some stories are going to be, maybe not so scary. But we want to share some stories with you, some that are demonic and some that are not. Miss Wilma is doing better. And for those of you who don't, people are asking me, why? What about Arkansas Paranormal? It is true. This weekend, I should have been at Arkansas Paranormal. I got sick. And because I got sick, I didn't want to obviously travel 8 hours away from home. And so I just simply could not. I could not make it. And I know they're disappointed, and so am I. I did offer, however, tomorrow I was supposed to do a presentation, and I did offer to do a training, a lecture via video through Zoom or something like that. So I did offer that. But unfortunately, they said that their internet service is not very good there. So nonetheless, that's why I'm here. I'm here. So we'll be here for all this week. Now, Willie Windwalker Gibson, let's get into it. So Willie Windwalker Gibson, he is a shaman. He is Cherokee and Irish descent, born and raised, and currently resides in Louisville, Kentucky. And Willie is married to his beautiful wife, Shaman, and she is she has such a beautiful heart. She's just a beautiful soul. And as I mentioned, he is a shaman. He is an ordained minister. He is a paranormal consultant and spiritual advisor. Willie can see and hear spirits. And Willie reads animal totem cards, does smoke readings, clearings, and cleansings. And by the way, he is a UFO experiencer. We can talk about that if you want. Now, he did a lot of radio, online radio. He's done a lot of that. He's been on television as well. And of course, he writes. I think he's still writing for Visions Online magazine, I think. And he has 2 books out, The Shaman Windwalker and The Soul Warriors. They're on Amazon. I strongly encourage you to get them. So let's bring Willie on and say hello to my buddy. Hey there, Willie. How are you?
I'm good, James. How are you?
I'm fine, and I do appreciate you're willing to jump on and chat with us. So thank you for that. I hopefully you're having a good Friday.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm doing okay today. Thank you for inviting me on.
Absolutely, we love having you on because it's always interesting to hear some of your stories and bounce things, ideas, and some of my stories, and kind of get a different perspective on things. And I think that's important. I really do think that's important. And tonight, of course, is our Halloween show because obviously Halloween is right around the corner. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get royalty-free TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, royalty-free spooky music, and play that kind of in the background to, I don't know, why not? It's Halloween. We always have to do that because Facebook and TikTok, they're really not TikTok, but they're really bad as far as banning you. So you have to do it. You have to do it. So this is royalty free, Facebook and TikTok. All right. So first of all, how's Shaman doing?
She's doing okay. She's coming along fine.
Good. Good. So let's talk about what you've done and how long have you been in the paranormal? For people who don't know you based on the introduction I just gave, but how long have you been a consultant within the paranormal community?
Consulting about 30 years, in the paranormal 60 years.
Wow. So you've been quite a long time.
Yeah. I've gotten into a lot of stuff.
Would you say that this is something that is a passion for you, or when did you know that you really had a passion for the paranormal?
Well, James, I guess you could say it became part of me. I mean, it wouldn't leave me alone at the age of 10, and it's ongoing. I mean, I started seeing and hearing at the age of 10, and I had to kind of ease my way along because way back when I started, this was back in the 60s. You didn't want to tell anybody that you could see and hear spirits, especially in the area I was in, where I lived at, and plus I was Native American and I'm Irish too. So I had a lot of racism going on with me, because when you're Native American, I mean, you could tell I'm Native American, and I used to, go out and get beat up and stuff like that. I thought I was getting up just because I was fat and walk with a limp, and I just thought people didn't like me. But at the time, I didn't know it was a kind of racial thing, and had to let my dad sit me down and talk to me about that. So, and on top of that, I had the spiritual stuff starting with me, and then the cosmic stuff with the UFOs, and to be at 10 years old and all this hitting me at one time, it was kind of overwhelming at times.
So let me ask you this: when did you know that you had these abilities? You say at 10 that you knew that you had these abilities?
Yes. Well, we lived next door to a lady that was elderly, and she was bedfast, and Mom would go over and she would, take care of her and do the yard work and stuff. And she called my dad over to next door to her house one day, and she said, "Look, why don't you move your family in with me, and when I die, you can have this house." And Dad said, "Okay, we'll do that, Dad." Packed us all up, and we moved next door, and we took care of her for about 6 months until she died. And she died, and the day she died was I don't know if I told this story or not. The day she died, I came home from school around 3:00. And my mom was crying. I said, "What's wrong, Mom?" She said, Go in Miss Beck's room, and she wants to talk to you." Well, I went in there, and she was laying there, and she looked kind of funny. She was looking straight up at the ceiling, and I went over to the bed, and she said, "Willie," I said, "Yeah." She said, "Let me have your hand." And I gave her my hand, and as soon as I gave her my hand, she grabbed me and said, "Oh my God," and she died.
Oh wow.
She's got a death grip on me, okay? I couldn't move, and I was screaming. Mom comes running into the room. She said, "Just don't move. I'll be right back." So she went and called my dad. Well, fortunately, my dad only worked like 5 minutes away, so he was there 10 minutes later. He comes running into the room, and I'm standing there, and here's this lady that just died, and she's got a hold of my hand. I mean, it felt like it was in a vice. So he went on. He came over, and he said, he got my hand out of hers, and he said, "Now you go in the other room with your brothers and sisters. Shut the door and don't come out until I tell you to." So we went into the other room, and we waited and waited, and we looked out the window. We saw the police come, and we seen the coroner come, and all this kind of stuff. We seen the body being taken out and all this. And after all that was done, he opens up the door and says, "Come on in." So we went on in, and he said, "Now Miss Beck has died, and she's gone. This house belongs to us now." And we just looked at each other, and okay, fine. Well, here's where my training begins. Okay. 2 weeks later, we had the funeral and everything, and but as we went to make the funeral arrangements, I always got the to go places where the other kids didn't. So my dad took me and my mom went to the funeral home to make arrangements. So they're at the funeral home, they're in another room making arrangements, and I hear an organ playing. So I go into the other room and there's a woman, sitting there playing the organ, and and I'm looking at her through the door, and she looks at me. She says, well, "Come here, Willie." And I went over to her. She says, "I said, how do you know my name?" She said, "I know your name." She says, "I know who you are." And all of a sudden, I hear this voice come behind me. "What are you doing here, son?" I looked around. It was my dad. I said, "I'm talking to this lady," and I turned around, and she was gone. So
Wow.
I didn't say anything about it. I went on ahead, went home with Dad. We had the funeral a couple of days later, and 2 weeks later, after the funeral, I'm laying there in my bed, and we had just gotten in bed, and I felt this tug on my bed, and I look up, and there's Miss Beck standing there, smiling at me. Now, this is the woman that grabbed my hand and died. All right. So I looked at her, and she smiled at me, and she kind of, nodded her head, yes, and all of a sudden she just faded out. Well, when she faded out, now that's my first ghost I've ever seen. I screamed, and my dad, "Hey, Dad, you need to." She said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "Miss Beck was here, and my brothers and sisters jumped up. What's going on? What's going on?" Dad said, Willie just had a dream. That's okay. He had a nightmare. He grabbed me and snatched me up and took me into the other room." I said, "Dad, Miss Beck was here." She said, "Calm down, son." I said, "She was here, and she was by my bed." He said, "I know." He said, "Because I saw her walk through the house." She came to tell you, thank you for being with her. When she died, she didn't want to be alone. And he said, "That is a gift that she gave you, and this is a gift you're going to have." So that was my first ghost. Now, about, 6 months later, we get a call. My uncle has died. So, of course, we have to get on a train and go to the funeral. Well, Dad didn't take all of us. He took me for some reason. I wanted to stay behind with the rest of the kids and play in the country with my aunt at her farmhouse. But no, he said, "You need to come with me. Come with us." So he loads us on a train. We go to Cynthiana, Kentucky, for my uncle's funeral, who I've never met. That's my mother's brother. So, we get off the train, and we were met by my other relatives, and they put us up in a hotel, and we all load up in the car a couple hours later, and we go out to see my aunt, who I'd never seen. That's my mother's brother's wife. So I meet her and everything, and we're sitting there talking. She said, "Oh, by the way, Opal, that's my mother." She said, "I've got something for you." So she goes in the other room, comes back, and there's a present. So she opens up the present, looks at the picture, looks at it, and it's a picture, and she starts crying. And I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" She said, "This is the only picture of my mother that was ever taken." She said, I want you to look at it." I looked at it, James, and this was the moments that I saw playing the organ at the funeral.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I said, okay. Then I said, "Dad, can we go outside a minute?" So I went outside. My dad said, "Dad, I saw her at the funeral home playing an organ." And he looked at me and said, I believe you. And I said, okay. So my Uncle George, it was his name. That was the funeral he was going to. My Uncle George when he was a kid, he had an accident, blew his arm off. Okay. So I was told that story. So I said, "Well, can I go outside and play?" And so Dad said, "Okay, go ahead." And I go outside, and now this is another farm, so I'm messing around outside, and I happen to look over at the barn, and there's this guy standing there, and smiling at me. He motions to me to, come over and talk to him, and I walk over. He says, "Hi, Willie, how are you?" And he said, I said, "Fine." He said, "Now you're gonna find out something, and when you do, don't get scared or anything. just be happy that you had this time with me. And I didn't know what he was talking about. So I go back in the house. I didn't even mention that I even saw him. So the next day we go to the funeral home. Okay. Now the funeral home back in those days were at people's houses. So we actually went into the funeral director's house, and he had his front room set up, and my uncle's coffin was in the front room. So I go walking up to the casket with my dad, and he said, "This is your Uncle George." And I looked over in the casket. It was a guy standing by the barns.
Wow. For those of you, hold on one second. There's a lot of people who are just tuning in. For those of you who are just joining us, I appreciate you guys being here. So I'm Bishop James Long, and you are here. We are doing Paranormal Fridays. If you don't want to watch a paranormal show, then you can simply move on. Rather simple. Now, I'm speaking to my buddy, Willie Windwalker Gibson. Now, he is a shaman, because we have a lot of folks who are just tuning in. He's talking about his experience as far as his paranormal experience, what he has dealt with, what he has seen. And that's what we're doing tonight. So tonight, for the first hour or so, we're talking about our own experiences. And he'll share some stories as he's doing. And then at the second hour, I'm going to be sharing some haunted items that I've never shown on air for you guys. So you'll see those tonight. This is our Halloween special. So again, just letting you guys know, that's where we are. And I appreciate all of you guys being here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so you're a young kid and you see your deceased. And by the way, if you can hear the music on TikTok, let me know. That way, just let me know if it's not. If you can't hear it, let me know. If you can hear it, let me know. And keep in mind, folks, on TikTok, I run the show on 2 different computers. So I have a show here, a computer here, and here. So sometimes I don't see your comments. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Sound good? All right, great. Okay, so Willie, so you just saw your uncle who had passed away, and it's so cool. It is so cool that your father and mom were so open to this, your experience. Because a lot of people would say, up, that's it. They would immediately shut that down. But it is so cool.
James, at the time, I didn't know my mom and dad were spiritual too, and they could see and hear spirits too. So I guess that's where I got a little bit of it from. But after I saw him, in the coffin, and I looked up at my dad, and when I give my dad that certain look, he said, "Let's go outside," and we go outside. I saw him at the farm, standing beside the barn. He said, "I believe you, son." And the reason he believed me, because he could do the same thing, but he just didn't say anything. He says, "Well," and then it was probably 2 days later. When we got back from the funeral, he said, "Look, I need to work with you on a little something." He said, "You've got a special gift, but he said, I don't want you to tell anybody that you can do this, because if you do, people are going to think you're crazy.
Right.
Okay, if you see anything, you come to me, or if anything bothers you, you come to me and tell me about it." So after that, we would do stuff like he would take me to funeral homes, like the butcher died. Okay, he was a butcher, but he wasn't family. And we'd go there, and he said, "Now come over here," and he would have me touch the casket, and he would have me actually touch the person, which gave me with my energy, gave me the chills. But then I would look over, and sure enough, the person would be sitting over in a chair or stand beside leaning against the wall. And the dad, he said, "I know, I see him standing there too." He said, "What you got to realize, son, sometimes people hang around for a little bit, especially before they get put in sanctified grounds, because they just want to see what's going on. After the funeral, they move on, or they stay around for some reason. But you got to get used to that." So from there on, when I would, here I'm 10, I'm 11 years old, and he's explaining to me what ghosts are and what spirits are and what was going on with dead people, and then that's how I got started. With my first ghost, with Miss Beck grabbed me, and I didn't know at the time she just wanted somebody to be with her when she crossed over.
It's interesting that she just grabbed your hand. Do you think it was because do you think she was afraid, or do you think do you think she might have saw something that frightened her?
I I don't, James. When I went in there, she was looking straight up at the ceiling, and I'd been in her room 100 times before, and I'd sit down, and have cookies with her, and have tea with her, and talk with her, and stuff like that. But she had nobody else but us. Even her sister disowned her because we went over to the house, and when she found out we were going to get that house, she just didn't have anything to do with her sister, and. So, she treated us like her grandkids, and especially me, because I would go in and talk to her, and I wasn't afraid or anything. Of course, she was bedfast, and I could tell she was in a lot of pain. But I guess that she just waited till I come home that day and asked for me because she knew that I would stay with her for some reason. Like she crossed over, but when he said, "Give me here, let me have your hand," I thought it was innocent. She just wanted to hold my hand. And I've held her hand a lot of times before, but she grabbed my hand, and then she crossed over right then. It's like, she just didn't want to be alone, and that's how it got started.
Wow, that is absolutely insanity. That must have frightened you a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I was screaming and everything, but you got to realize that was my first time. I could hear things, hear voices and things at that time, but I just kept it to myself. I mean, it wasn't until I had that experience that I told my dad that what was happening with me, and he understood because he would experience the same thing, and he was the type of guy that didn't let anybody know what's going on, even if he saw a ghost stand beside of him, he wouldn't say anything. Mom was the same way, and he was the Indian part of me, and Mom was the Irish part of me, and it all blended in right at the same time.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know about me is that my grandmother and my grandfather were actually Cherokee, and they belonged to the Cherokee Nation. And so my grandfather, I believe the organization is called Red Faced Men. I think that's what it was. And my grandmother, she was in the Pocahontas Women's Club. And so, I mean, obviously, Native American heritage is very important to me as well. So let's talk a little bit about some cases that you have worked as a shaman that were not demonic or scary, but then let's make that transition. So has there ever been a case that you worked that it wasn't demonic? Because everybody thinks that everything is demonic. There are some people that just like, oh, every single thing is demonic. And that is simply not true. It's just not true. And usually people who say that everything is demonic, those are usually the people who never work cases. Never, ever, ever, never work case in their life. So they're just giving an opinion based on an opinion, not from experience, but just from an opinion. So we're giving you opinions based on the fact that we have worked cases, that we've been there. We know that not everything is demonic. So now someone is asking a question about you being a shaman. When did that come about? And then let's get into the cases. When did that come about? You knew that you were called to be a shaman.
Well, I've told this story a lot of times, James. I wanted to go into the law enforcement field, and when I was old enough to do it, I went on ahead and went through police school and all that kind of stuff, and I was assigned to as a state peace officer at the state fairgrounds here, in Louisville. Mm-hmm. At that time, Kentucky Kingdom and all that wasn't there. At one time, that was considered native. Burial ground land.
Someone is asking, how do you define a shaman? Yeah. Let's do that first. How do you define a shaman?
Okay, well, that's I was told in the Native American burial ground that one night that by a shaman spirit that I was going to be a shaman, and I argued back and forth for months with this guy. That was a spirit. That was a shaman named Singing Fox. That I was not going to be a shaman. Well, it took an experience. One day I was in a car and with my partner, and we saw this guy walking across the grounds, and I challenged him. I got out of my car and challenged him because he was trespassing, and it looked like he had a gun. Mm-hmm. So he took off.
Oh, no! Well, you can't say that word. Huh? You can't say that word. You have to say a weapon because TikTok will ban me.
Okay,
It's crazy. You can't say you have to say unalive instead of the K word, and you can't say you have to say weapon. I mean, it really is. Everything you say now, it's just like really you can't even tell a story now. So he had a weapon. Okay.
He had a weapon, and I had my partner in the car with me. I said, "You take the car and go around to the other side of the park because it was like a big park." And I took off running after him. I was running after him, and he about a block ahead of me. And I saw him make a big jump over something, but I kept on going. Well, what I didn't know is when I was following him, I fell into a big sinkhole. It was like quicksand. It came up to my waist. And I thought I was going to die, but I was able to reach my radio, and I told my partner I was backing. I need help. I needed backup. So I had held on to a 2x4 that was over to the side, and all of a sudden I felt something grip me, and I looked up, and this was Singing Fox, and he looked at me, looked down, and said, "You're going to be a shaman." And after that, I could hear the police car coming, and they found me, but before they got to me, he disappeared. Well, after that, I got to thinking, hey, maybe I need to do this. So I went on ahead and turned my badge in, and I got into the private sector as a private investigator, and I started seeking out other shamans to teach me the craft, and that's how I got started as a shaman.
Okay, so how do you define a shaman? There people are asking, what is a shaman?
Well, I asked around because by then I was, I had met a lot of mediums and things, and they were telling me about my gifts, and I could see and hear spirits and all that. Well, one time we had a group meeting of the mediums, and there was a shaman there. And her name was Rose, and she explained to me who she was and what she was, and she said, "How would you like me to start teaching you some things?" And I agreed to it. She said, "I know other practitioners. I know other shamans that will work with you to bring your gifts out," and that's how I got started.
So then, is it a spiritual elder? Is it exactly how would you define
elder? That's what I explain to people when they want to go. They feel like they're bound and determined to be a shaman. People that become shamans are picked by spirits. That's how I was picked. You can't get up one morning and say, what, I think I'll be a shaman, and go get a shaman book and read it. You can't. You got to go find an actual shaman and be taught by them. You got to have hands-on. Now James, as being a priest, you went to the seminary and you went through classes and you learned how to do things and how to do ceremonies and things. Well, I had to do that too, but in a different type of way.
So being that my grandmother and grandfather were both Cherokee, and my grandmother was a shaman, then if I ever wanted to learn shamanic rituals or shamanic way, how would I do that? How would I go about that?
Well, you just so happen to know a shaman, so we could get together and we can I can teach you a few things.
Well, we'll have to do that, Willie Windwalker Gibson. All right, let's get into it.
We started one time.
We did.
Things just happened in our lives that kind of put us on hold. But we could start getting together and do that.
Yeah, maybe we'd also do a messenger, a Facebook Messenger too. So yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll chat. We'll chat about that because I think it's important. My heritage is very, very important, and I love my grandfather and my grandmother deeply, and so I think that's important that we do that. So, all right, let's get into some of your scary cases. So, is there one particular case that you worked that immediately comes to mind that really, truly frightened you?
Well, there's been a lot of them. I've told the thing about the woman and the dolls and stuff too many times on here. People want to hear something fresh. Okay, I got a call to come to a house that they thought was haunted. Okay, and they were having a lot of problems. Things were moving. doors shut and shadow people and all that. So you know that I started a group called the Soul Warriors, and one time I had a team of about 6 people, but they kind of drifted away from me a little bit now and went on their own. But at this particular time, I went on ahead and took them with me. And we pull up. I think this place was over in Indiana. We went over to Indiana and we pulled up to this place, and it was an ordinary looking house. We figured it wasn't going to be much of anything, because when I pull up in front of an area, I kind of look outside and see what's going on. I see if there's power lines. I see if there's water running near the house. Stuff that would amp up spiritual activity. And this one particular house didn't have any of that. Okay. So I take the team in, and they're walking around. They got their EMF meters and all this going on. I never did carry one. I do a walkthrough and use my cell. Shaman and me are walking through this house, and I'm talking to the owner, and the owner says, she said, I don't know what's going on. Doors are opening and closing. I'm hearing voices. I'm hearing laughter. Something's calling my name. But I was walking through the house, and I didn't feel any really negative stuff going on. Okay. I didn't feel it when you're in a demonic situation. I've been in a couple of them. It felt different. It just felt. It didn't feel evil at all. So I'm walking through the house, and I run across some energy in one of the rooms. It was you couldn't see it, but I could feel it. So I sit down. This was a bedroom, and Shaman sat down beside me. I said, "Look, I feel you're here." I said, "Do you want to talk to me about something?" And and I could hear the voice said, and he said, "I'm afraid." And I asked, "What are you afraid of?" And he said, "Am I dead?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well," I said, "Can you tell me what happened?" And he says, "This used to be my house." And she said, "I don't know why people don't see me." I said, "Well, you crossed over. They can't see you." I said, "Can you tell me what happened?" So he said, "Well, last thing I remember," he said, "I was walking down the street, and I was crossing the street, and a car hit me. And that's the last thing I remember." But I woke up in this house, and I don't know how I got here. He said, "I'm afraid. I said, "Are you trying to communicate with the people here?" He said, "Yes, but they don't hear me. They don't know I'm here. They don't see me, but they're afraid, and I don't want to hurt anybody. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you, how to be at peace." Well, I said, I walked through the house. I said, "Come with me," and he actually walking beside of me, shooting me, could feel the energy. And I went to the homeowner. I said, "Look, you've got a person that used to live here that was killed in an accident. He's lost. We don't know how to get, he wanted to tell you that, not to be afraid of him." She started crying. She said, "Look, he's more than welcome to stay here. I just don't want nobody hurt." And I could hear him say, "I won't hurt anybody." And I asked him, I said, Do you want to go to the light? Do you want to stay here?" And a lot of people, James, for some reason, wants to stay for a while before they do anything, before they cross over, because I don't know if they want to have, to be with a family or what, or are they missing something. But this one particular spirit, I'd like to stay a while. And I told him, I said, when you get ready to cross over, just ask God to take you to the light, and you can cross over. There's nothing holding you here but you. And the lady says, "You're more than welcome to stay here." And I asked him, I said, "What's your name?" He said, "My name is David." I said, "This is, David is here." And I said, "Are you going to watch over everybody here, David, and make sure nobody bothers them?" He said, "Yes." So I said, and I told her, that David said that he would watch over her and stuff. He said, "She's more than welcome to stay here." But she said, "David, I want you to stay in certain areas. Don't go in the bathroom or bother us when we're sleeping." He said, "I won't." He said, I'll stay in the living room." And I told her that, and I said, and I told my team, I said, "This is okay. I mean, this is a good haunting, and nothing's going to happen." And I told David, I said, "When you get ready, just go. Just tell God you're ready to go, and you can go." Well, I called about 2 years later, I called the lady and I asked her, if David was still around. And she said, no, she said, I think he crossed over. He said, everything's peaceful here. And I was satisfied with that.
So what about, let's talk about some demonic cases. Now, let's talk about some cases that really frightened you, that really, really scared you. That's, give us a case that you did that even today bothers you.
Well, it's the case of, I guess I'm going to go ahead and tell it again, James. It was the case that I got called one day by this woman, and she said, something's going on in my house. She says, I can't eat, I can't sleep. Can you come over and something's going on? Can you come over and check out my house? Okay, well, at this particular time, this was one of the times where Shaman was in the hospital, and I was trying to stay with her. But I told her, I said, I've got a case that came up, and the lady wants to see me really, really bad. And she said, you go to the case, I'll be here, I'll be okay. So I get in the car and I go over to the lady's house. She lives out in the south end, and I drive up. And right away, James, I could see something wasn't right. The ground was dead. The flowers were dead. The house looks like it was just in pain. Just the way it looked. So I go up and knock on the door. And she opens the door, and the lady's standing there, and she looked like a zombie. I could barely see her eyes, and she said, "Come in." And I went in, and she sat down. She said, and I looked around, James. I could see, I don't know, thousands of flies on the wall.
Wow.
The place smells like decomp. There were dogs there. There were little bitty dogs, but they were trying to, really threatened to bite me. And I said, "Be still." And they went whimpering, into the other room, and there was a giant parrot over to one side, and it was squawking at me. I said, "Be quiet." And it was quiet. I'm by myself now. I didn't call you because I think you were out on the case someplace else, and all the soul warriors were scattered out. I'm by myself, and I didn't need to be in a situation like this. But once I walked in there, I think I knew what I had. Mm-hmm. I walked, and I started walking. I looked around, and there was dolls all over, leaning against the wall, all around the walls. In every room, there must have been 100 dolls. I keep walking, and I go in the kitchen. There's water coming up out of the sink, just shooting up like a geyser.
Wow!
And the food was scattered everywhere, and stuff was smeared on the wall. Well, I figured, I might have walked into a mental situation here, and something is telling me, no, there's something else with the smells and things. I knew what it was, so I kept walking through the house, and finally, I come to a door, and I opened up the door, and it was the basement. I walked down the basement, and the basement was flooded out. It had maybe 2 feet of water in it. So I go back up, and the lady's just sitting there, just like, she was just like a zombie, like. And I looked at her, and I said, just sit here a minute. I'm going to look around some more. So I'm looking, and I'm scanning the house, and I go out to the backyard. And in the backyard, James, there was a big hole. In that hole, it was filled full of crystals.
Oh, really?
It was filled full of crystals. Okay. So I go back inside, and I asked the woman, I said, "What's the deal with the hole outside the backyard?" She said, "That's where my husband does his rituals." I said, "Well, what kind of rituals?" And she said, "Oh, he does black magic." I said, "Okay." It's just like somebody was playing with a Ouija board, So I back off a little bit, and I'm looking at her, and I'm scanning her up and down. I noticed she had a chain around her neck, and in the chain there was some red fluid in it. I said, "What's that around your neck?" She said, "That's blood." She said, we drink each other's blood. Now I've got a woman that's oppressed. I've got a woman that's they're exploring vampirism. I got a guy that's doing black magic out in the backyard, and he's opened up a portal. And I got all this going on, I think I just got, like a demon situation, but I got all kinds of stuff. I said, what's the deal with the dogs? She said, they're haunted. I buy haunted things. I said, lady, she said, what's going on with me? I said, she said, I can't sleep. I can't eat or drink. So I go into my medicine bag. I carry my medicine bag with me, and I get out a few things that Native Americans, that have, that I used to test people with. And I said, hold this for me. And she holded it. And she, things seem to be okay. A medicine pouch seems to be okay. So I get out some holy water, and right away, she didn't like that at all. She kind of arched back a little bit. And I looked at her. I said, look at me. I mean, and her eyes they were kind of slits, but I didn't see any whites in them or anything. Right away, James, I knew it was a full blown possession, and I was going to try to take care of this in the way you would call minor rights type of way, and but a Native American would call it a clearing. And so I went on ahead and I started doing my prayers and started doing. Sprinkling the holy water. Man, you thought I threw acid on her. I mean, she just arched back in that chair. She gritted her teeth, and I got a crucifix out because I was using everything. I was using Native American and Christian things to do this, and I took that cross out and I put it on her head, put it on her forehead. You thought I'd shot her, James. She arched back in that seat. And then she started shaking and stuff. So I went on ahead and started doing the Native American prayers and that. And all of a sudden, I told this thing, what is your name? What is your name? What is your name? I kept doing that, a good 2 hours straight. Finally, she kind of just slumped over. And right away, whole area seemed different, seemed lighter. For one thing, I looked over, all the flies were gone. It's almost like they disappeared. And, going through all this, I was kind of shaky myself. When you go through this, you're going through it by yourself. You got to show that you're not afraid, but at the same time, you want to jump out of your skin. You've been there. And, so I went on ahead, I got rid of the thing. And I told her, I said, lady, there's some things you're going to have to let me do. She said, go ahead and do whatever you have to do. So I said, you sit there. She said, I'm thirsty. So I went and got her some water, and she was drinking on the water. And I think I gave her a banana or something to start eating on. I said, you doing all? She shook her head, yes. I went back outside. Now I've got a portal outside with crystals. So this guy opened up. So I went on ahead and did a Native American closure on it, and I blocked it off. Went back in the house. I said, lady, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get rid of these. I had to get rid of that necklace of blood. I said, take it off your neck, And she took it off and she threw it over to one, like away. I said, you're going to have to get rid of all these dolls. She looked at, no, these are my friends. I said, you're going to have to get rid of these dolls, or you're going to bring this thing back. I'm not going to do it. I said, listen to me. You do not do this, you're going to cause this to come back. I'm not getting rid of my dolls. I said, well, listen to me. I've done all I can do for you. And I said, if you want to keep these dolls, I can't keep you from getting rid of them. So I left. That's all I could do. I just left. So 2 days later, I get a phone call. It's from her husband now. He was out of town. He came back in town. When he went back out back, he found out I closed his portal up. He called me up and he started, I'm powerful and I'm going to do this to you and I'm going to do that to you. Buddy, I'll tell you something. You're a con man. You ain't going to do anything. You're in with fire. I said, you do not want to face me face to face. But I'm telling you right now, I'm a lot more powerful than you are, and I'll take care of you once and for all. I said, dude, call me ever again. If you do, I will come back to your house and then I will settle all this. And he never did call me, but that was the worst one I ever did. That was because I was by myself. Being an exorcist, that when you do stuff like that, you have to have somebody with you, and you have things that you do. You have people that go in and take care, to investigate. You have medical ready in case something happens. You have assistance. And if I walk into this place, I'm by myself, and I'm fighting herds, the dogs, the elements and everything else, and I'm fighting witchcraft and vampirism. You want to talk about a story? That was something, but I did not tell Shaman I did all that. That what I went, I just came back and told him it was just to do a clearing and everything was fine. But he was there in the hospital. I didn't want her to be scared of what I had to go through, but that was the roughest one.
Yeah, and it sounds like, of course, it's very dangerous. Obviously, sometimes you just have to do it. You have to. Sometimes you're by yourself, and when you're by yourself, things can get quite frightening. And so, folks, again, for those of you just joining us, Willie Windwalker Gibson, a shaman, is telling his stories. I always like, when I do presentations, I always like to listen. So many people constantly interrupt the guest. I don't like doing that. I like listening to the stories. That's why we're here. Because obviously some of these stories, you're right. Jack's Paranormal says they are intense, and they are. And this is why I think it's important that we do these presentations to talk to you guys, to explain that, this stuff is real and it's dangerous. And, there's consequences for performing these rituals. And again, of course,
people don't realize, we go through a physical thing too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it beats us down. It wears us out. Over the years, it's really took its toll on me. I really don't go out and do that kind of stuff anymore. I do more counseling, unless it's really, really serious and it's close by and I can do it and then come back. But lately, I haven't done anything because things have been happening here at the house. And by doing this over the years, it's cost Shaman. And I had to talk with her. I said, I'll do some counseling. And, if we can get to an event or something here in Louisville, we might go there and, just to see what's going on. But I said, right now I'm kind of semi-retired.
Yeah, I don't blame you, because seriously, there's so much. It takes so much out of you, and you have to be physically strong, spiritually strong, psychologically strong. You have to be strong to do this type of ministry, and I think that's why I like having Willie on to talk about his experience. And of course, I always talk about my experiences, but for you guys also to listen to a different voice, a different perspective, because this stuff does have consequences for doing this ministry. And people just sometimes just jump into them without realizing the consequences can be severe.
And, back when I first started, James, all this was taboo. I mean, you didn't talk about this to anybody. I mean, it's just back in the 60s, you just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, and no, he does not have a TikTok, everybody, but actually someone is asking about his faith. Willie and his wife are Christians. And I think that's one of the immediately people think, well, if you're shaman, or if you're Native American, you have, you're pagan, you have multiple gods. And that's just incorrect, completely incorrect. My grandmother, my grandfather were both Christians. And so I understand the perspective or the idea, but someone was asking about that. But anyway, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked that so we can clear that up. Let me ask you, is there one location, and then we're going to wrap this up, is there one location that you've been to that you don't ever want to go back again?
I've been to Bell Witch a couple of times, James, and, I've done my thing twice there, and both times I was kind of shunned, and I did what I needed to do at the time, but I would never go back to Adams, Tennessee at Bell Witch.
Really? Is it just because you were shunned, or because you didn't like what happened as far as draining you?
Well, I was there. They brought me there. I was doing the television show, and they brought me there to do a certain thing. And I did that certain thing, but they took that and twisted it and turned it and redone it, reshot stuff, and they said to do stuff that I told them to do stuff that I didn't tell them to. I did my ceremonies and things and recently released spirits and things, and it went back to, the same old. People don't realize Bell Witch is a Native American thing, and it still is. But I just saw a TV show the other day, and they went right back and retold the whole story another different way. So I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore.
Yeah, because it certainly probably left a bad taste in your mouth with being treated the way you were. And so is that a place that you just wouldn't go to because you didn't like the feeling, or because of the disrespect, or both?
Both, but when if you got any kind of paranormal energy, or you've got any kind of a gift, and when you first go into that town, the whole town, once you get in there, you could feel it. I mean, it's the town has got a sort of energy in it that, people that's got any kind of mediumship or anything like that going on with them, they know what's going on there. It's got a really, really funny energy to it.
And what about Shaman? I mean, how does she feel about demonic cases?
Well, she has felt she has got. She doesn't like. She went through a few of them with me, but right now we've had to talk. We're you give us our Benedictine medals, and I wear them all the time, even outside. And we wear them every day, because you know why. And
right.
I don't want a chance of going through that again.
Yeah, and of course, because that was frightening for you as well. So if anybody comes to you and says, "Look, I'm interested in taking demonic cases," what would you tell them?
If you don't have to, don't. I tell them, if you've got a real demonic case, you let the clergy take care of it. Don't go in there and try to take care of something. Because let me tell you something. I've gotten, and because you helped me with it, I have paid the price for doing this. And you don't want to go in there. You let clergy do it. Let somebody like James take care of it, because I've had my time with it, and I've paid the price for it. So has Shaman.
And where was the cave again? What people are asking, the city again?
It's Adams, Tennessee. It's Bell Witch.
Yeah, the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch, folks. Well, listen, I appreciate you jumping on for this hour and talking about some of your cases and your stories. And I am going to get with you, and we'll have to talk about the shaman. The Shamanite. So we'll have to do that.
Sure. Anytime, James.
All right. Well, hey, you tell Shaman I said howdy, and thank you so much, Willie, for your willingness. And by the way, if anyone wants to reach you, how can they reach out to you?
Facebook, Willie Gibsons.
And also email?
crystalchief55@AOL.com.
There it is. So, guys, I have it on the screen on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGREDB Radio. It's crystalchief55@AOL.com. All right, Willie, thank you so much for your willingness to jump on and be with us. And happy Halloween to you, buddy.
Same to you, James.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right, everybody. That was our buddy Willie Windwalker Gibson, and we appreciate him jumping on tonight and doing a fine. I love his stories. I mean, this is a person, you got to remember, this is we have another hour to go. So we're still rocking and rolling. And sometimes I'm playing this spooky music, and commercials will come on, and like, oh, really? Seriously? Commercial for Arby's or whatever. So I'm gonna have to get the commercial free. Yeah, I agree. Willie has just so much information and experience. And I think that's so cool. And that one thing that people don't remember, Willie also does this 100% free. 100% free. So this is why I keep saying this, and I do this 100%. And this is why I keep saying this, because there is no ulterior motive for us talking to you and telling you about this. See, if we charge $5,000 a case, then anybody can say, aha, that's why you're doing it. You're doing it for a paycheck. And so they can question our intent. But see, we're doing this for absolutely free, not charging a penny. And so therefore they can't attack that. So then they attack individually because they can't attack the intent. Well, you're doing it for fame. You do things for fame to make money. And if we don't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Kind of dumb. Yeah, it's Crystal Chief 55 at AOL.com. Crystal, like Crystal, CRYASTAL, Chief 55 at AOL.com. Yeah. But anyway, that's, people do that all the time. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Joker. And so this is why we don't charge. No, he doesn't really he doesn't have a whole lot. He has a Facebook, so you can find him on Facebook. Willie Windwalker Gibson, or Willie Gibson. So he does that. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of, as far as technology to get on to TikTok and things like that. And we don't know. TikTok may be going away anyway, so we don't know. So I want to talk about some cases that I have worked, and then I'm going to share some of the. I did bring some haunted items with you guys, with me. I'm going to share some of them and talk about them. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. A shaman, of course, is Native American, and he will perform shamanic rituals where a priest, such as I am, then we perform what's called the solemn rite of exorcism and the minor rite of exorcism. So he is an ordained clergy member, but I am a Catholic bishop, and so there's a difference there. No, I do not work. I knew Lorraine. I was friends with Lorraine, but no, I did not. I did not know Ed, but I did know Lorraine. Yeah, I've been in the paranormal. My first time that I investigated was 35 years ago. I'm in my 50s, so but it was at Waverly Hills. So Louisville, Kentucky is obviously where I grew up, and Waverly Hills is in Louisville. And back in the day, the owner at Waverly at that time did not care if people went up that place. They didn't care. Anybody could go up there. It didn't matter. And so a buddy of mine and we decided to go up there. And I've told this story, so if you just indulge me for a moment, because a lot of people are new. And so we went up there, and it was crazy. When we went in there, we went into like the first floor, and there was paper everywhere. And it was actually, which was kind of, I don't know why they did this, but it was the patient's information. They had all kinds of stuff. File cabinets turned over, paper everywhere. I mean, this was private information. There was an old rusty wheelchair that was on its side, and the wheels couldn't even move. But we heard this crying, and it sounded like a child. And it sounded like it was upstairs. And so we thought, okay, maybe the child kind of, played not trick or treat, but played with a kid or with the friends, and, went, hiding or some hide and seek. And we thought perhaps maybe they got lost up there. But you clearly heard them. I absolutely heard them crying. So we decided to go up there, and we walked up the stairs, and we kept hearing the louder, and we went down the hallway, and it was echoey. If you've ever been to Waverly Hills, it's very big. And so we went down this hallway. As we got closer, we noticed it was in the bathroom. So I went into the bathrooms. There was, I think, 3 or 4 stalls, and it was those metal stalls. And I opened one of them. I said, are you here? It's okay. You come on out. We want to help you. And I opened the first stall, nothing. I opened the second stall. The very last stall, I opened it. I tried to open it, and it was locked. And I said, open the door. We're trying to hear. And then it sounded like somebody had a sledgehammer, and they hit the side of the bathrooms. They hit it so hard that the thing, it rattled. It was so loud. We took off. We were out of there. We were and we jumped down those stairs. And as we got down to the basement where the wheelchair was, the wheels, the one wheel was just moving. And before, that wheel wouldn't even move. And we took off. We was like, nope, that was it. And that was a frightening experience. That was a frightening experience. But let me tell you a little bit of a couple cases that I'll share with you guys that was demonic in nature. And this was back in 2017. So the assistant with me was, I'll just say Father Brighton. I'll just give a name, a pseudo name. And the family, we'll just call them the Browns. So the family, the Browns, reported series of unsettling occurrences over the past several months. Strange noises would occur at night, objects moving seemingly on their own, disturbing whispers plagued the household. And it culminated, by the way, the youngest child, she was 14 years old, Bridget, exhibiting terrifying behavior and speaking in guttural voices that were not her own. And so we'll just call her Bridget. And so we arrived at dusk, and the air around the Brown household felt very heavy and oppressively cold, despite the mild autumn evening. So the family's apprehension was palpable as they recounted their experiences. Desperation, it etched across their faces. They were so tired. I saw it, that they were exhausted from this. So the initial observations that we noticed were with the temperature fluctuations. So when we entered Bridget's room, who was 14, the temperature dropped sharply. So it was roughly about 75 or so in the house. And when we went into her room, it would be about 68. I can't bring you on. Anyway. And then there was a lot of physical manifestations. Scratches on the wall. It's like something, she had taken some type of nail or something and just scratches, but there was a maddening, a crazy pattern to it. And we also had auditory phenomena, which we heard what's called disembodied voice. And so we heard loud, they were low growls. I mean, it reverberated through the walls. The source, however, was indiscernible, but it was yet undeniably menacing. So we interviewed Bridget. She appeared withdrawn and pale. Her eyes underlined by dark crescents of fatigue. And when she spoke, her voice wavered between her own and like an otherworldly growl. And at the height of the interview, her chair skittered back several feet without her even lifting a finger. And she didn't do it because the chair was up pretty high, and so her feet really never touched the ground. And then a deep laugh emanated from within her. I mean, that was very chilling. It's just more of it was a very deep, loud laugh that was clearly not hers. So, and we had already had a team go out and investigate. We knew what we were dealing with. So with the family's consent, of course, we had to prepare for an exorcism. We had already known that an exorcism was warranted, but we were doing things there to just validate this is what we have to do. So with sacred artifacts were placed, positioned strategically around the child's room. We called them, sacramentals, and candles flickered as they were lit, like they were trying to go out. And it was weird because when we lit these candles, the flames were so high that it casted like elongated shadows that would just dance around the walls. So Father Brighton led the family in prayer, and their voices overshadowed by the persistent whispers that seemed to emanate from the foundations of the house, and we could hear them everywhere. It was just, and the family wanted to be present. And normally I would not allow it, but they said this is going. We have to. We're okay. But if you've ever to explain how that works, it's called throwing the voice. That's what a demon will do. So if you ever go to YouTube after the show and type in 8D surround sound, and that's the best way. Put on some headsets, and you'll hear it everywhere. And that's the best way to describe. So these whispers, we could hear them. These were disembodied voices. We actually heard them. And the reason is it does that is it tries to disorient you. And that's why you have to silence the voice in the exorcism. So we could just hear this. It was just over here and here and here. So we began the rite. And Father Brighton, he began in Latin. And Bridget, she kind of writhed in pain, restraint on her bed. The parents that gave us the right to restrain her because she was violent and she would scratch. And her eyes, they weren't black, but they were almost like a very sinister yellow. Quite honestly, it looked like if you've ever seen someone in liver failure and you look at their eyes, they have that yellowish, really yellowish. That's what it looked like. And so the temperature plummeted. I mean, it was just really uncomfortable. And we had, I think, 3 or 4 candles. I can't remember. And all of them, except for one of them, every one of them went out. So she began to gutter, go into transient possession. And she omitted foul odors. And originally we had thought that she actually had used the restroom on herself. And we allowed, obviously, the mother to check, but there was nothing. But the odors was not just coming just from her. It was coming from the sides, from the corners. Again, just to try to intimidate you and try to stop the rite. So for an hour, this continued. And it was just constant. And with an echoing, then a scream that really felt like it was like rattled the foundations of the house. We invoked the final rites of banishment. And the final candle that we had just kind of it flared brightly before extinguishing. And then it just left. And it was just silence. And I'll never forget. So she was, her eyes came back to a normal color. She was able to receive the sacrament, and I mean, it was an emotional moment. So Bridget, obviously, though she's exhausted. After that, she returned, obviously, to her own voice and demeanor, and the foul present just completely receded. And leaving only really behind an unsettling silence. And the family obviously was relieved, but still very shaken. So while exercise, the entity's presence may have at that residual energy, and we took care of that, and we blessed the home. And we talked about continued prayer and spiritual support were advised for the Browns. So they're no longer, they don't have these issues anymore. But that just kind of gives you an idea of what what sometimes happens during an exorcism. Okay, so that's one. Another one. She had played with a Ouija board, and Mary asked, "What caused the?" People say this all the time. There's nothing wrong with the Ouija board. Okay, fine. I get tired of telling people about it. And then they say, there's nothing happened. There's nothing. Okay, fine. Okay. And then I tell people, listen, I don't charge. There's nothing that benefit. I don't benefit at all. There's nothing. I don't benefit at all by going to people's homes and do you realize that when I first started this ministry, I had $15,000 in debt on my credit card to get into people's homes. I put 15 on my own credit card. And even today, even still to this day, I still have like $4,900 left off that I'm still paying off for that. So the people always say, you shouldn't charge, you shouldn't charge. Okay. And then when I say, do you realize I went into serious debt helping people? So I'm not here there's nothing, I'm not benefiting anything by telling you this. I'm telling you this because this stuff is real. If it wasn't real, I wouldn't be here. I'd be doing something else with my time. So yeah, even today, I'm still paying off that credit card, $4,900 still. But this stuff exists. So let's talk about this. But look, folks, if you need help, this is what we have to do. This is non-negotiable. So everybody must go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal link and fill out an email. And then Bishop-elect Abbot Tommy will contact you, and they will get a team out there and go from there. But yeah, see, this is ability. This is the thing people need to understand. Paranormal teams that I work with, they don't charge either. And many of them have to put their expenses on a credit card too. And when people attack paranormal teams, it really bothers me a lot. Because these people are willing to go into debt helping a family they don't even know, and they don't owe them anything. And they're willing to either rent a car, buy the equipment, get the hotel room, travel to these people's homes, sometimes 8 to 10 hours. And then help these people and put all that on their credit card, just trying to help the family. And they don't charge. So anybody who attacks paranormal teams, it really bothers me when they do that. Because there's a lot of people who they devote a lot. And I'm a cast member on a television show. Thank you. I'm a cast member on a television show called Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists. So Legion of Exorcists show, you can watch that on HBO Max and the Travel Channel. And so we don't know anything about a second season. We just simply don't know. Right now, it's kind of on hiatus, so we don't know. But anyway, so it's a Legion of Exorcists. That's the show. Here's another case that I wanted to talk about. It is, this was in Illinois. And we'll call him Father Jeff, was the assistant. And we were summoned to this residence in Illinois. And there were reports of inexplicable and, well, they say terrifying disturbances. So Mark and, well, I'll just say the Hendersons had been experiencing an escalation in paranormal activity. And the disturbances included like loud banging sounds, objects moving on their own, chilling whispers heard throughout the house at night. And they would hear this at night. And despite the terrifying nature of these events, no one appeared. There was nobody had any type of possession, but they were frightened because they clearly heard something. So we arrived at this family, and we were greeted obviously by a visibly shaken family. And they recounted the events leading up to our involvement. So the family had been living in their home for 6 years without any issues. And a family heirloom, it was an old mirror, had been brought down from the attic and placed in the main hallway. And a decision that seemed innocuous at the time, but it correlated with the onset of the disturbances. So the team that was there noted the oppressive atmosphere upon entering the home. And there was a palpable heaviness in the air. I mean, you could feel it. It was a foreboding presence. And the team that was there, they said it sent chills down their spines. And the family dog, Max, who had always been calm, now refused to even enter the hallway where the mirror was situated. And it would growl fiercely nonstop at this mirror. So in the investigation on day one, the team decided to conduct an overnight vigil to witness like the disturbances firsthand. And so when dark came, the air grew noticeably colder. And I and Jeff, thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. I and Father Jeff settled in the living room, and we wanted to make sure that the recording equipment was active and positioned to capture any anomalous activity. So we actually were there. We stayed the night there. Actually, two. And at precisely 2:14 a.m., there was a thunderous bang. It echoed through the house. I mean, it was deep. It felt like it shook the entire house. The mirror in the hallway, it trembled as like it was struck by an unseen force. And then Father Jeff approached it, obviously very cautiously, and he had his rosary that was held tight in his hand, and the temperature around the mirror dropped drastically. So, and when examined, its surface was covered like in a thin layer of frost, but yet it was still warm. So day two, we rest. That was the biggest issue. And then me and Father Jeff, we reconvened with this family to discuss the significance of the mirror. And it was revealed that this mirror had belonged to Lisa's great grandfather. And thank you. And because this was the artifact, it was a man rumored to have dabbled in some pretty dark stuff, really dark stuff. And although the family never took the story seriously, so the connection seemed to suggest that the mirror acted like a conduit for the entity. And then later that evening, while conducting prayers near the mirror, the team heard like a sinister guttural whispers, but we couldn't figure out what it was saying. And the sound seemed to emanate from the heart of the house, echoing in our ears long after the silence returned. And in that very chilling moment, both of us, we sensed like a mocking presence. It's like it was watching us. So we absolutely said, okay, this is enough. We need to perform the minor rite of exorcism. We have enough information. Let's move forward. So we decided to do this. I prepared to perform a minor rite, and Father Jeff assisted. And as the ritual started, we felt the entity to basically retaliated. The front door slammed shut violently. So we had the door open, we had the windows open, but there was really no air going through. So, because immediately my thought was the air pressure. I mean, it slammed. I thought it was going to break, like they had a glass like in the door. It slammed so hard, I was stunned that it didn't break. And all the windows in the house, they rattled. And we would see shadows. It seemed like the dance on the wall. It was the weirdest thing. We could see shadow people everywhere. And but I mean, I was undeterred. I continued the invocation with unwavering authority. And so as the rite intensified, the mirror seemed to lose almost its reflection, and its surface was no longer like the shiny mirror you could see your reflection. It kind of got darker, and an eerie wailing. I mean, it sounded like we all heard it. It was like in pain, and it reverberated through the walls. And we continued the rite with a final, emphatic prayer. The mirror, actually, like someone had just flung it right off the wall. I mean, it was a pretty good sized mirror, and just flung it right off the wall and shattered everywhere. And that was it. I mean, everything just stopped. And calm returned to this family's home. So the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I removed the shattering glass. I removed the mirror from the family's home. I do have the mirror, and the family expressed, profound gratitude. And so they don't have this issue anymore. But this is the type of stuff that some of the things that we deal with, and some of the things that we see. But I have a case log, and people keep telling me I need to write a book, but again, why? If I write a book, then the trolls are just going to copy it and put it all over the place, and I have to end up giving it away anyway. So this is the thing. They'll do it anyway, just because they're nasty people. So I mean, I really can go on and on and on, and there's so much that I could easily talk about on these cases. But I've been thinking about doing a case, like a case log, or Through the Eyes of an Exorcist 2, case log or something like that. I've been thinking about doing that. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe obviously go from there. But yeah, it's well, I do have a book called Through the Eyes of the Exorcist, but like I've talked about earlier in the very beginning of the show, trolls then copied it and then put it all over the internet. So ultimately, I just gave it away because they were doing it anyway. And it's the same thing with my four classes that I have. So that's the thing. If I do a book, I already know what's going to happen. The trolls are going to copy it and send it all over the web. That's what they'll do. So all that work for what? That's what they'll do. And so you got to understand, that's a lot of work to put a book together just to have someone make copies and put it all over the internet, and that's what they would do. I did get it published, but I see that's the thing. I don't generate enough income to really sue them, because an attorney said the cost of suing them would be more money than you actually make per month. So anyway, let's talk about now about some of the items that I have that I want to share with you. No, I'm not seeing. A lot of people talk about, having these items, and so I don't know. Yeah, buy it from me directly, but that's what they'll do. They'll buy it from me directly and say, "Oh, I just love your work. Your work is so great," and then they lie. Okay, I want to talk about this first. So this is a case. This is a demonic case that I worked, and I brought this with me here. And really, this is it's a sick call crucifix, basically. When you go to someone's home and you administer either last rites or anointing of the sick, and it's really cool because you put the stand here, you take the cross off, and you put it here, and it stands like this. Like that. And then inside of this, there are candles, which they're here, the candles, and then here's holy water here. Now, I don't use these because they're very old, and you put the candles here. See that? So you put the candles here. So I always use this when I do like a minor rite of exorcism. But what I do, instead of burning the actual candles, because these are original candles that's never been burnt, never ever been burnt. These are actual original candles. They're really, really cool. They're very, very old, and see, they're in perfect. They've never ever been burnt, ever. So I don't like to burn them because I want to keep them. And so what I do is I put tea light candles right here, and the small little tea light candles. During this, now this family was complaining of hearing whispers and growls at night, and the knocking and the smell of rotten flesh. I mean, the typical things that the animal was terrified. So we went to this home. The team investigated. Yep, they got some EVPs. No question, there was something there. And I again, like I always do, I put my little small tea light candles here and here on this side. And I began the rite by what's called the Litany of the Saints. And I prefer to chant it. So it would go, Saint Martin, pray for us. Saint Gabriel, pray for us. So I would chant. And as I was chanting the Litany of the Saints, this tea light right here on this side, the flame, and this is the tea light, the flame reached from here to here. And my back was turned, and one of the investigators said, Bishop Long, your crucifix is on fire. I turned around, and this was on fire. Now, that's a form of desecration. So again, this was a tea light candle. So the flame was about right here originally. But as soon as I began the litany of the saints, the flame went all the way up here. Now, here's what's interesting about, not interesting, but explaining. This flame was so hot, and it burnt so hot that it actually burnt the actual crucifix. Now, that made me very mad because this is old. This is an antique. You can't buy these anywhere. I mean, these right here, because of the kind of the plastic that you see, or like the marble. It's not really marble, but it's supposed to look like marble. But this really made me mad. And you can see where it completely burnt all that. And sure. And it really bothered me a lot. A mother of pearl. That's it. Thank you. So it bothered me so much because I had always used this and never had problem. It is old, and when that caught fire, that made me mad. It was hot. I mean, it was hot to the touch. And again, this was a tea light candle. So the tea light candles were here. So how that tea light candle, I mean, flame, and you can see where it sits back too. You see how it sits back. So the flame actually went from here directly to this. And this is how serious this stuff is. This is not a joke. And this is why I tell people this, that it does exist. This is not make believe. I know a lot of people don't want to think about demons, or they don't want to think that they exist because it's scary. I get it. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist, because you don't want out of sight, out of mind. They don't exist. They do. This does exist. And that really, really infuriated me. And it meant to infuriate me, to basically stop the right, to kind of intimidate me, and not only but intimidate me, but also cause disruption. It didn't work. I continued the right, and we ultimately finished. But yeah, this is I show this to people. I mean, this was like a flame torch was put to this. Okay, let me just make this clear. We don't worship a statue. We don't, because people talk about idols. This is not idol worship. This is not idol worship any more than you having a picture hanging on the wall of your mother or your dad or your loved ones. You don't worship the picture. The picture represents the person you love. This represents the Savior I love. And it reminds me of what our Savior did for us. But I don't worship this statue at all. So that is why people need to understand. Now, this is a crucifix. The crucifix is because there's a corpus. The body is on the cross. A cross does not have the corpus. So that's the difference between a crucifix and a cross. Okay, so that's this. We'll put this over here. Also, I'll share this with you. I have a whole entire selection. This was an interesting case here. This woman. Wait, hold on one second. Let me get it. There's not much space here, because I have this big tub of item. Oh, come on. I just knocked everything over. Hold on, everybody. Let me get this. Of course. Of course it is. It's only a live show. That's all. Man, I just knocked everything over. Bear with me. When there's a tight space here, when you're working on a tight space, you do what you can. That's okay. We'll make do with what we got. So this here that I'm going to show you in a moment, it was a pretty intense case that I worked, and I want to share with you guys what it was in a moment, as soon as I can find it. Anyway, this family had purchased this item, and this woman had become obsessed with it. Obsessed. Are they out in force? Yeah, if we need to put sub chat only, I'll put sub chat only on. So trolls, if you can't behave like a human being, I'll just put sub chat only. I try to be kind, but if trolls are going to be out, is it really? If it's bad, I don't want to, because I'd rather have everybody be able to chat with us. So okay. The sub chat means only people who are subscribers can chat. All right. Well, because I don't want to punish everybody on TikTok. The trolls, they just have to be nasty. They just have to be nasty. So Trubs, here's the deal, trolls. If you continue, I'm putting sub chat only on. So yeah, they have to ruin everything, do. Okay. All right. Let's hang tight. I don't want to do it because I don't want to punish people who can't afford subscription. So being with the horns, no, I don't have that with me, Monstar. I don't have that. So anyway, there was a woman who she was fascinated. I understand, Thomas. That's why I want to keep everybody available. So there's a family that a mom and a dad, and she went to this antique store. And this antique store, Banshees, I believe in Banshees. She went to this antique store and became obsessed with this particular painting. And she wouldn't, it was unhealthy. Yes. And this is the painting here. Let me move this all the way. And it's wooden. Yes, the Evil Dead book. Yep. Because I found out that she had actually purchased this. So for those of you who do not know, this is a very evil book. And why people buy these things, I don't know. But it is basically a book of the dead. I will share a few things. And this is how it started. So she bought this, and she became obsessed with this. Obsessed. And it goes, and there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more. I mean, there's demons on here. There are pretty serious stuff. Pretty serious stuff. This book has been blessed. Yeah, it is a real book. And like, I'll just show you, like this picture here. So, and that's pretty tame. Yeah, it's pretty bad stuff. Anyway, she purchased this. And when she purchased this, and then she found this painting, she became obsessed with it. And it was quite, no. This was because there's incantations. That's right. There's incantations in it. I will share this one with you. Which I've shared before. You guys have seen this. Excuse me. This is, of course, a John Wayne Gacy painting. This is a real painting. A family had purchased this and brought it into their home. And when they brought it into their home, violent activity started. And so this is an actual painting. And why people bring this into their home, I don't understand. I don't get it, but they do. Oh, gosh. Hold on one second. I'd say what, everything's just falling apart. There we go. Let's turn that off. Okay, so that's just some of the things that we have. I don't know. I don't know why people do this. But that is this. Here is another. That is another Gacy painting. Okay. We talked about this here. No, these are blessed. These are all blessed, and I will not leave them here. They go right back into the storage facility. This. Let me fix this. Hold on. There we go. I'm just nutting everything down. So this is now the Holy Spirit board. And I showed this before. But this type of nonsense, this is what it looks like here. And this is this is the cross that comes with it instead of the planchet. And a family brought this, and really violent activity occurred. And it says here in the instructions how to use the Holy Spirit board is what they call it. The Holy Spirit board is the only spirit that you and your friends can use to communicate directly with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Place the board game on the table or the study surface. Place the magic cross on the board. Have everyone lay thy hands upon the magic cross. And then say the following prayer. Oh, magical Jesus, please guide our hearts to answer our questions. Amen. And then ask the question. Let the Holy Spirit guide your hands. That's called possession. Do you understand that? This is why it's stupid to play with Ouija boards. Please understand that is a form of possession. When you give a spirit the ability to control your muscular system, your body, your hands, to move an object, you are giving them permission to possess. Anyway, when Jesus has answered all your questions, don't forget to say goodbye. And remember, anyone who says that the Holy Spirit board doesn't work is both a liar and a sinner in the eyes of our Lord. Amen. That's what it says here. This is blasphemy. This is evil. This is terrible. It is Holy Spirit games. Folks, I'm telling you, stay away from this crap. I'm telling you. Because I'm not going to guarantee you that I'm going to be able to come to your home or any other clergy members that are going to be able to come to your home to help. Because there's thousands of people who are requesting my help every single day. And I can't get to them. You don't believe me? 19,325 emails in 2 weeks. And I can't get to them. This is serious. This is what I'm telling you guys. Now, TikTok, I'm going to stay with you guys for a little bit longer, okay? but we have to wrap things up for everybody else, regrettably. I know. I'm going to be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have open mic night. Judy Ann's going to be there. Hopefully, Miss Wilma's going to be there. We're going to goof off, tell stories. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here. So you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. That'll be there with you guys on Spreaker, TikTok. Again, I'm going to stay with you guys a little bit longer after the show, so stay with me. And then we'll be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'll talk about demonology. I'll answer your paranormal questions. And then Sundays, we have our Sunday Bible study at 8 p.m. Okay, so hang on. I'll answer your questions. TikTok, don't go anywhere. For those of you on Spreaker, I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. Don't forget, we have night prayer coming up. Night prayer at 9:50. 9:50, I play music on TikTok. 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, in 1 hour from now. I'll go live right back with TikTok, okay? And we start at 10 o'clock. If you want to join us for night prayer, you don't need anything. Everything's provided for you. My friends, I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless, and don't let any troll or anybody else convince you or tell you otherwise. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB Radio, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble. Good night. The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.